My Big Lebowski Moment by Tiffany A. Christian. Dad loved pranks. I never understood it. I mean, I like to laugh, but I tend to take things way more seriously than I should. Dad, on the other hand, looked for pranks wherever he could. There was, however, one place where our humor collided. Our favorite scene from the film, The Big Lebowski. It's the tribute scene where Donnie's friends, Walter and the dude, take Donnie's ashes to be dispersed in the ocean. In a Folgers coffee can, no less. Something Dad had long joked about. But of course, the situation goes awry, and Walter doesn't account for the wind. As he removes the plastic lid and dumps the ashes, they blow backwards, covering the dude in Donnie dust. Dad and I, we would bust out laughing every single time we watched that scene. It's hard sometimes to laugh at death, or with death, or near death, or whatever. But I think he saw it as an epic prank, not on, but for people who needed it most. In July of 2022, I found myself taking on the task of disposing of Dad's ashes. He was an oceanographer and a naval veteran, and he wanted to be in the sea. I figured the job would be simple. I imagined it going the way it went with my mom. A calm ocean in the lengthening shadows of twilight. I wouldn't get in the water with my awful arthritic knees. I did not want to risk falling down. I would make my way to shore, sharing a bunch of I love yous I didn't get to say in life. Turn over the vessel as the tide fades away, and then watch the ashes slowly go out to sea. Done deal. And the last physical part of Dad would join with my mom, and together their energies would make that final leap into the cosmos. For over a year, his ashes had been resting in a cylindrical cardboard vessel decorated with a picture of the Oregon coast. It was the cheapest option the mortuary had available. Well, since he had been willing to be housed in a Folgers can, the vessel was a step up. Plus, it was specifically designed for easy removal of the ashes, so it was just a matter of getting him to the water. My issues with this plan were, one, I was doing this without any help from my rickety knees, and two, I didn't want to get into any trouble with the law. I drove my Forester onto the sand and stepped out, my dad's still closed vessel cradled in my arm like a small dog. Absorbed with the idea of not getting caught, I barely registered the smell of the sea or the feeling of the sand as it washed over my bare feet. It was the height of summer, and the Washington coast, much less familiar to me than my Oregon homeland, was a popular tourist destination. People were everywhere, sauntering along the beach and riding horses and playing with their dogs. As I walked toward the water, I kept checking to see how far I was from other people. What if one of them was an undercover cop just dying to nab me for turning my father into a sandcastle? As I made my way to shore, I felt the first wave of water hit my feet, and I looked down at my shaking knees. Lord knows, if I were to fall in now, they might as well just roll me out to sea along with my dad, because I would not be getting up. But I had to walk in far enough to ensure that Dad's passage to the open sea would be swift and sure. So I waded in, jeans and all. I stopped mid-calf when the rolling waves and sinking sand made me unsteady. I took Dad's heavy vessel from my arm and with both hands and, okay, Dad, let's do this. I felt the tightening of tears coming on, and another wave made me wobble. Any longer, and I'd be going down. Okay, keep it short. Thanks for everything. I love you. Say hi to Mom. I opened the top of the vessel and I popped the top of the cardboard thing inside. With another look around, I flipped it over. Nothing came out. What the hell? I said to the vessel. I looked inside the hole. The ashes were right there where they were supposed to be. I tried it again. Nothing. A wave of panic rose amid the waves of water. I couldn't figure it out. I ripped at the hole to make it larger so I could do the thing I never, ever wanted to do. I touched the ashes. They were solid as stone. I froze. My mind went blank. And then this absurd bubble of anger trickled past the shock. What the fuck, Dad? I figured that if I added some water to the ashes, maybe they would soften up enough and I could pry them loose. So I ripped the hole wide open and I bent at my waist, my toes sinking into the sand and trying to grab a foothold. As I got some seawater into the vessel, I felt with my hand and then I dumped the water out. Only a few tiny chunks of ash came off the dad brick. Oh, God damn it! Seriously? You're supposed to want this! What the fuck? You motherfucker! If you weren't already dead, I'd fucking murder you. What the ever-living fuck? I shook that vessel as hard as I could, but only bits of Dad trickled into the sea. The rest of it was not coming out. I paused to catch a breath, still bent at the waist, my loose shirt billowing about me in the ocean breeze. Cut to a wide shot. Someone watching from the distance. Me, for all the world, looking like some old-timey German washerwoman. Imagining that wide shot, that's when I got it. Best prank ever! I stood there laughing and I took a breath and it was just too funny, right? It was the prank to end all pranks, literally. It was his last hurrah and my Big Lebowski moment. If he could see it, I know he would be laughing his ass off because there I was taking everything way too seriously once again. I think it's the only time in my life that I've laughed and cried at the same time. I made my way to the car, barely able to bend my shaking knees. I was defeated. The dad brick was just too solid. There was nothing to do but take the rest of him back home, where I would get the biggest, sharpest knife I had and stab the shit out of him with it.
Tiffany, you just had My Big Lebowski Moment performed on stage. How are you feeling?
I feel fantastic. It's such a great show, and I so appreciate what Candis did. I feel great.
It's a pretty vulnerable story and funny, but how did you go about writing it so that it had heart and humor at the same time?
Well, I wasn't really thinking about it initially with a deliberation. It was a blog post, and I just wanted to really connect that story to just the people I knew and the people who knew my dad, and just to give them a little bit more insight into who he was, he was a character, as we now see, you know.
How did it feel to have his last moments, the laughter with the crowd and all of that? How did it feel when they laughed? Did that feel good?
Oh, I felt amazing. Like, I know that, if he'd been here, he would have appreciated it so much.
And anyone that was wondering about entering the Memoir Showcase contest or working with editors like Marnie and I, any thoughts for them?
just do it. This is my first attempt, and I managed to make it here. So, not to say everybody will, of course, but just do it. And if it doesn't happen, great. If it does, fantastic.
Candis, thank you so much for your performance tonight. How did it feel to have Tiffany in the audience?
One only hopes that the writer is pleased, and she says she is, so yay. But I think everyone in the audience can relate to the story in one way or another because we've all had loss and how we've chosen to deal with it. And her words were so fabulous, and finding that humor in a difficult moment, I think, is important. And she did such a great job. It was an honor to be a part of it.
This is your first showcase with us. How was the experience overall?
It was great. Great. Fantastic talent to work with. Lovely people. Just really overall a wonderful experience.
That's it. Thank you, ladies. Wonderful.